Okay, I'm just gonna come out and say it. I don't like anime. Okay, well, I guess that's not entirely true. I mean, I've got anime right here. Let me rephrase that. I don't like anime anymore. See, my relationship with anime is a subject so complex that it can take up an entire video on its own. So, I'll keep this as brief as possible. I did grow up with shows like Robotech, Voltron, and Saber Rider, but I didn't hear the word anime until the mid-90s, and after finding out that this kind of show was its own genre, I really got into it. Awesome characters, great action, original stories, I loved it. So from the late 90s to the mid-2000s, I became a huge anime fan and saw lots of shows. But after about 2005, I gradually started losing interest and had a hard time staying invested. Basically, my attitude toward new anime that came out was, really? They're doing this? Again? It got to the point where it was just all the same stuff over and over, and I started getting annoyed and just couldn't watch anymore. Maybe anime lost its flair, maybe they ran out of new ideas, maybe I've become jaded. I honestly don't know. I don't have an answer. Now, if I learned anything during my time as an anime fan, it's that some other anime fans don't respond well to people making negative comments about their precious genre, and will usually attack you like rabid wolves. So, let's just pause for a moment and try to find some common ground. Here's a couple of anime that I do like. Lupin the Third, the Wolf, the Gentleman Thief. With his crew, Lupin travels the world, stealing all the most valuable treasures they find. Why? Because why not? All the while avoiding capture from Interpol agent and comic foil Inspector Zenigata. Appearing in a ton of movies and specials and having 4 TV shows, Lupin is as recognizable as he is cunning. But if there's one person that could possibly best him, it could be... Detective Conan. Shinichi Kudo, or Jimmy as he was called in the dub, is a child prodigy and aspiring detective. But one day he was poisoned by an attacker, but rather than kill him, it reverts him back to a child. Taking up the alias Conan Edogawa to protect his identity, he must now find the man that did this to him and hopefully a cure. Along the way, he solves mysteries with the help of his friend/ambiguous anime love interest Ran, or Rachel in the dub, and her bumbling but sometimes useful father Kogoro, or Richard in the dub. Not only does Conan have nearly as many movies and TV shows as Lupin, but the two would make excellent rivals. Now, having heard all that, imagine my reaction when I discovered this.
The world's greatest detective? Taking on the world's greatest thief? This will be a battle for the ages! I mean, Moriarty versus Holmes, Light versus L, Detective Conan versus Lupin the Third! Oh my god, this is gonna be awesome!
First, I need to mention that, as far as I know, an English dub for this doesn't exist, so I won't be playing much audio from this movie. I should also mention that for Detective Conan, I saw the dub first, and therefore I'm more accustomed to the dub names, so that's how I'll be addressing the characters. Now, I know there are a lot of anime purists out there that hate the word dub. Ooh, that must get on your skin, huh? Dub, 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 dub. Anyway, look, I understand you have your preferences of the way you like to watch your shows, but if you have a problem with the way I like to watch my shows, then you can kindly direct your negative comments right here. Alright, enough chit-chat, let's do this. The movie opens in a fake country called Vespania, where the royal family is going hunting when suddenly the queen gets assassinated. Their bodyguards show up and find the prince has also been killed in what appeared to be a suicide. No doubt this will set up our main story. But then we cut to one half of our main cast as Conan, Rachel, and Roger see the news of the assassination on TV. Then we cut to, oh, there he is! Lupin has arrived! Okay, we need to stay on track. Back in Vespania, we meet the bratty Princess Mira, and... that's funny. She looks like Rachel. No. Anyway, it seems her and Keith, the Count, need to head to Japan on official business, so he hires a bodyguard for her, and it turns out to be Daisuke Jigen, Lupin's wingman and expert marksman. However, the princess doesn't really care for him, so he stays behind. But that's okay, because he's gathering information about the security vault holding the family crown for Lupin. But it seems it won't be so easy to get in. While he comes up with a plan, we head back to Japan where a party is being held for the princess. The cast of Conan is in attendance, and they also think the princess looks like Rachel. No. They wouldn't dare do that. Suddenly, an assassin tries to poison the princess, but of course Conan calls him out and he tries to get away, but Richard stops him. Whoa! Don't mess with Richard, man. He'll fuck you up.
Triple combo!
Freaked out by the attempt on her life, Princess Bitch escapes the hotel, but she's being followed by... Hamina. Fujiko Mine, Lupin's rival with, let's say, benefits. The princess tries to get away from her bodyguard when she runs into Rachel, who was late for the party, and... Oh, they're not. Oh, they are! Oh, are you kidding me? That's one of the most overused cliches in the world! So yeah, they switch places. Why? Because lazy writing, that's why. Anyway, Conan runs into the princess dressed as Rachel and actually recognizes her, making this plot point even cheaper than it already was. Then she runs into Fujiko, and without questioning who the stranger on the motorcycle is, she hops on. And to make this even more pointless, some random thugs who also recognize her chase after them. You know, I can believe Conan seeing through her disguise, but some random guys, really? Ugh, this is just insulting. Speaking of Conan, he shows up again, and using his Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles skateboard, he goes after them. And I've got to admit, this chase scene, though brief, is pretty awesome. Fujiko does manage to outrun Conan, however, and they get away. Back at the hotel, Rachel tells everyone what happens, and therefore no one thinks she's the princess. You know, if you have the audacity to pull off one of the worst cliches ever, you should at least have the decency to do it right. Oh, but wait, we need to add more layers of stupid to this. So while they search for the real princess, Keith decides to cover up the whole thing and take Rachel back to Vespania to pose as the princess. And apparently he can do that. Boy, this movie went south real quick. Let's see what Lupin's up to. Lupin and Jigen are in one of Vespania's mines to find a rare ore that can supposedly block radio waves and can help them sneak into the vault. After they find what they're looking for, we then cut back to Fujiko and the princess wasting our time. Can we move this along, please? Keith drugs Rachel so they can sneak her onto the plane without anybody seeing, and they're about to leave. But Conan sneaks aboard and goes with them. Oh, so that's why they switched. It was to have an excuse to bring Conan to Vespania. So they couldn't come up with a better plot device for that? Like, oh, I don't know, have Zenigata show up and use his Interpol connections to get them there? Oh wait, they do that too! So I guess this movie's only partially incompetent. So they head off, as do Fujiko and the princess, who meet up with Lupin for some good old shenanigans. Ha! Vintage Lupin! So they discover Conan, but allow him to stay, as they try to figure out who might have killed the queen, and if the prince really did commit suicide. But first, we need to get what we've all been waiting for. Lupin and the girls go out when they make him go get some drinks. Meanwhile, Conan and Jigen are out on the town as well. Jigen goes to a bar and tells Conan to get himself a drink. And then it finally happens! Our two main characters get to share a scene together. And they're debating the morality of stealing from a vending machine. Okay, to be fair, this scene is not bad, but when you're bringing two icons like this together, I kinda expected something a little more. You know, this movie's not really turning out the way I expected. I mean, is it just me, or is this kinda disappointing? So Zenigata and Richard show up, we get a quick reunion, and then they join the investigation. Then the princess returns with Lupin and Fujiko, meaning all of our characters are together, so we should start wrapping this up. Lupin goes to steal the crown, but Fujiko stole the thingy he made to block the alarm systems and beat him to it. She also gets him trapped in the vault. Then Goemon shows up for his one scene in the movie and chops through the vault to free him. Then we get that scene we see at the end of most Conan episodes where they gather everyone up to figure out who done it. But I decided to not spoil what happens because it's actually pretty awesome. Well, let's just say everything works out, but one problem remains. Conan entered the country illegally, and because his name is an alias, he can't apply for a passport. Luckily, Lupin helps him out, and the movie ends suggesting that they might meet again, but I'm not holding my breath. Okay, to be fair, despite a couple of major flaws like the cliché, the disappointing meetup, and a few structural problems, this movie isn't bad. The character interactions were great, there were a few funny moments, and the overall plot was pretty good, which is mainly why I didn't want to spoil the conclusion. If you're a fan of either series, I do recommend you check it out. However, the movie is titled Lupin the Third versus Detective Conan. Not Lupin the Third meets Detective Conan versus! You can't title a movie Versus if the main characters aren't gonna... you know, verse! I mean, say what you want about Alien versus Predator, but at least the alien fought the Predator! The closest thing that came to a full-on confrontation in this was that chase scene with Fujiko and Conan. Crossovers can be hard to do, and that's why most of the time they're just okay, though in the right hands sometimes they can turn out awesome. But at the end of the day, it's really all just for fan service. And I think that sums this movie up nicely. Lupin the Third versus Detective Conan. Not bad, but what a wasted opportunity. Well, I think it's time we leave the wacky world of Japan behind for now and come back to the West, where cartoons give you what they promise. Stuff like, oh, I don't know, dinosaurs from outer space.
I'm Mark Twain, author of The Prince and the Pauper, and I'm begging cartoon makers everywhere to please let this tired story die.